this is how stupid I used to be. I would hear somebody and they would brag about what they paid in taxes. And they were bragging on that. Like, oh yeah, I paid $500,000 a year in taxes. And so back then I was like, golly, that dude's making some money. But if I hear somebody say that now, you know what I say? You're freaking stupid. Your accountant is doing you a disservice by not telling you that you don't have to pay any taxes. And guess what? When you don't pay 300 or 500 taxes, guess how much you can work? Way less.
This is my time. I'm on the ride.
Hi, I'm Kyle Stephenson, and you're listening to the Assets in Orthopedics podcast. In this forum, we hope to educate medical students, residents, physicians, and other high-income professionals on the power of investing, especially in real estate assets and syndications. We want to help providers gain financial intelligence with the hope of earning financial freedom. Please listen and learn so you can spend more time doing what you love with who you love. Enjoy the podcast.
I go 100 all day.
Hello and welcome to the Assets in Orthopedics podcast. This is your host, Kyle Stephenson. We're excited to introduce you to this next guest. Please welcome the debt-free doctor himself, Dr. Jeff Anzalone. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kyle. Appreciate you having me and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, Dr. Jeff, I will introduce you first, and then I'm going to let you take it from there. So, Dr. Jeff Anzalone is a periodontist in the great state of Louisiana. He's an author and founder of debtfreedoctor.com. He focuses on helping doctors and other high-income professionals create passive income from real estate so that they can stop trading their time for money. That's what we're all here to learn from, right? So please tell us more about you and where you're from, early training. Kind of go through some of that if you don't mind. A lot of listeners here are physicians, right? And dentists and doctors and, other high-income professionals. But just tell us about your background.
Yeah, born and raised in Louisiana, did my training at LSU, went to dental school, then did what's called a general practice residency. It's kind of a hospital-based residency. It was at the VA hospital in Biloxi. Got interested in surgery, then went back, did my periodontics training, was another 3 years at LSU. So when I got out, I'm from here, Monroe, Louisiana, was planning on going in with a group here. Unfortunately, that deal fell through about 15 days before, we were supposed to move back. And as you know, from medical school, they don't teach you how to start a practice, right?
Right.
And so I was relying on them to teach me all of that. We had a 2-month-old, $300K in student loan debt, had already bought a house, and this was back, in 2005. So this was before the 2008 crash of real estate. So to get a house, all I had to do was just sign a few pieces of paper. I didn't have to show income or nothing. It was crazy. And so if I went back, I would have definitely not done that. I got an apartment. But anyway, long story short, had a guy that was another dental specialist that took me in. He said, look, you can rent space from me. But the office, he had bought this general surgery office, big general surgery office. Like, unfortunately, it's going to take like a year to remodel it. I'm remodeling it now. You can come work in my little bitty office. Maybe you can go around to dental offices and work out of. So I did that. He kind of showed me the ropes. I had to start doing again what I used to do in high school and college, and that was mowing yards. Imagine, you go to school this whole time, and then you're having to cut grass to make ends meet. So it was very humbling, but I was in survival mode. I had a kid and I had to do what it took. I had student loans, come and due, and that's part of it. But it was good. Looking back on it, everything happens for a reason. God had a plan for me.
Good character building for sure.
Good character building. So that's how I got started. Now, back then, I was a big Dave Ramsey guy, and I'm really glad I had his background because, I was kind of all over the place. And he was like, okay, here's your 7 steps to do. Emergency fund, check. Then after that, your debt snowball, start. And I had all these different student loans. You had some small ones, large ones. Okay, start off with the smallest one. Pay your minimums on everything, and then that small one, everything you can do, just attack it, and you get that psychological win. And I did that, And it's funny because now, I'm doing like some financial freedom coaching for doctors and dentists. Some of them are like in their 40s and some of them are in their 50s, and they're still carrying six figures of student loans. And that just goes to show you, if you don't pay it off in the beginning, you're never going to pay it off. You're just going to, as you know, life keeps getting more expensive. And you're like, okay, well, it's only 3% or whatever. Doesn't matter. It's just get it out of the way. So I did that, got it out of the way, paid off that first house. And then I was about 40. We went snow skiing, and you'll appreciate this, in orthopedic. Went snow skiing, fell, wrist injury. Luckily, it wasn't anything major, but guess what? It's hard to treat patients without.
Yep. Need those hands, need those fingers. Yep.
So that was what got me going in the direction of, man, if you keep operating like this financially, which is so risky, you're screwed. So that, you've probably read the book, Start With Why, Simon Sinek. That was my why. Like, I had to figure this out for my family, not to go out and buy the Lambos and all that stuff, to do something that if I couldn't treat patients, I had to have other streams of income coming in. And that's what got me down the path to start looking at other ways to make money because of that.
Freedom is much better than the Lambo, right? Wouldn't you say? People on social media are all about the Lambos, but it's like, we're really doing this more for freedom, not relying on your time to work at a job. So the other thing with student loans is, if you keep kicking that can down the road, your family's going to have to pay. If you pass away, those loans don't go away, right? Your family's got to take care of it.
Yep, that's true. And if you go bankrupt, guess what? You still got to pay back your student loans.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, the government has you. So real quick on your profession as a periodontist, enlighten me a little bit here. So you did dental school, and then you went back and basically did like a 3-year residency. Is that correct? Or fellowship, however you want to describe it?
Correct.
Okay. And you guys are the ones that put in the implants for patients. Is that correct?
Amongst other things, but that's a big part of my practice. That's correct.
Is it for necessity or is it for aesthetics? Like, what for patients? What is that? What's their main reason to get prosthesis or dental implants?
Yeah, a couple of things. Yeah, if you get a tooth knocked out, treat a bunch of sports people, get a tooth knocked out, you can replace. That's the best thing dentistry can provide, to replace your tooth permanently. We get people that don't have teeth, and they can't wear their dentures because of their bone, their jawbone atrophies. So we can put in anchors, implants, and the teeth can snap in or screw in to replace a bunch of teeth too.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Good. Yeah, I was looking up, orthodontist versus periodontist and all that. And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. You guys are basically doing surgery in the mouth.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
That's great. All right. So moving on, let's talk about your real estate investing career. So we know your why, and you have family. You have a couple kids, correct? A couple boys?
Yep, 2 boys. One's in senior in high school, and the other one just finished his freshman year at the local college. He plays football here. He is really enjoying it. So, yeah.
That's great. Good. And he's close enough that you guys can go to games.
Yeah, that's true. So we, one thing to think about, with kids, as soon as they were born, we started these 529 plans, because that was part of Dave Ramsey's, baby step 4 or 5 or whatever. But nobody ever tells you what to do with it or what can you do with it if your kids don't need to use that money, because, both of them are valedictorians. But if they want, because my oldest son is thinking about doing chiropractor school, so he could use it. But, my thing is, that's their money, and they can either use it if they go to professional school, or if they have something now, they're not burdened with having to save for their kids, so they can use it for their kids. So that's what my wife and I are going to do with it.
Yep. You know that you can roll those into a Roth IRA now.
Yep, I did see that.
Yeah, which is awesome. I think that's huge. So that nobody's penalized if you don't use it for school.
That's right.
All right. So yeah, let's talk about your real estate career. Please tell me how you got into it. What was the first thing that you did when you decided, hey, this is something I want to do, I'm going to pursue? You had that conversation with your wife. What'd you do to start?
Well, after that skiing accident, I started online, YouTube videos, articles, podcasts, just learning what what do the wealthy people do? What do I do? I had no clue. Reading books, and I could summarize 6 months of learning into 2 sentences for you. Number one, wealthy people, 90% of them, when I talk about wealthy, I'm talking about 10 million, 100 million, like wealthy people. 90% or more invest in real estate. So I was like, okay, I didn't have any real estate. Number two, all of them had minimum 7, anywhere from 7 to 9 income streams. I had one. So, okay, I was like, all right, well, that's easy. I'm going to invest in real estate for income streams. All right, now I know it's not going to be Bitcoin. It's not going to be all this other stuff. It's going to be. So back then, I thought I had to go out, and my real estate investing mind was I had to go buy a house and rent it out. That's all I knew. So I started looking around for houses, and I had some friends that manages their property for their dad around here. And I almost pulled the trigger on a house. But then there was this retired dentist that actually teaches real estate investing to other dentists, and he was having a meeting. So I went to his meeting in Dallas. I didn't join his group or anything, but it really opened my eyes to, man, there's so many ways to get involved in real estate. But the most important thing is passively, because we're busy treating patients. And anytime we're taking our time away to go look for houses or go deal with tenants or whatever, that takes away from either your practice or your family or both. And it was really cool to see and I'd never heard of a real estate syndication. And that's eventually what I started doing. Back then, crowdfunding was big. This is 2016, 2017. And so I started doing a little, just like $500 and $1,000 and, just kind of getting the income. So I was like, all right, I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to do apartment syndication. I'm going to drop 50 grand. And this is the way I used to do my underwriting, my due diligence. I would look at the pictures and then I look at these numbers and I'd go, well, that number is higher, so that must be pretty good. And literally that was it. And put 50 grand in that deal, I lost all my money. we lost, every investor lost their money in that because we didn't know what we're doing. The sponsor went in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and this apartment building, all the people were leaving because it was such bad crime. So the guy got the bright idea of, let me fix it up and see if people will move back into it. Guess what? They didn't. He ran out of money and he left. But you know what? If I would have had that wrist injury, I would have quit. I would have. But again, I had that why. In the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, even though it was written in 1937, he interviewed all these millionaires and billionaires. All of them had in common that they started off with he called it a white hot burning desire. If you don't have that, anything you do in life, think about it. Anything that you've done in life, like you've gone to medical school, you're a doctor. If you go back in your life, you always had something to keep you going, right? Like if I fail or whatever, I'm just going to keep going. So because I had that, I had to keep going. And I took some time off and I had to relearn it, rethink some things, educate myself more. Eventually got connected with a good sponsor and I started investing in multifamily syndications in Dallas. And it was back then they were paying, it was an 8% preferred return monthly. And I remember getting that check for $333.33. And I was just like, this is really cool that I've got this money. I'm not paying taxes on it because of depreciation. And I learned all about that. And it's paying my bills. And I did another one and then another one. And it just started snowballing. And then all along the way, I had started a website, debtfreedoctor.com, to where I was sharing my experiences with people, the highs, the lows. Because, in medical school and dental school, you don't know, they don't teach you what a cap rate is or IRR or NOI and all this. So I'm just like, okay, I'm learning this. I'm going to put it on my blog. Learning this, put it on my blog. And that started to grow. And then I started going, well, I don't really read articles. I listen to podcasts and I watch YouTube videos. So I started taking my blog and making YouTube videos out of it. And then after a couple of years, AI has come out and it's made the process 1,000 times easier to go from blog to YouTube video and vice versa, to take a YouTube video and make a blog out of it, or shorts or Instagram reels or whatever. It's crazy, the technology, but I just wanted to get it out there and educate people. And so that's pretty much how I got started in the real estate part.
Yep, that's amazing. So yeah, we're going to keep pushing through with that. I recently, probably, I think it was 2 episodes ago, I had fellow Louisiana native, Chris Rude. Do you know that name?
Actually, and I know you know this. If I could give anybody listening to this advice, is the cheat code to success in life is this: find somebody that has what you want, or find somebody that's doing what you want to do, and go pay them, or go get them to mentor you, or go get them to go work for free or whatever. I wanted to get involved with mobile home parks and RV parks. I found this guy, Chris Rude, 2 years ago, called him, I paid him, I went to Lafayette, and I spent a whole day with him, and it was great. I had him on my podcast and stuff. So yes, I'm very familiar with Chris. Good guy, good dude.
That's amazing. Well, so yeah, since I had him on and I follow your stuff as well, I've started doing a little bit more research on mobile home parks, not necessarily RV parks. So I would love to learn more about that. Tell us how you got involved with RV parks and what other investments you have. We would love to hear that. But I'm very intrigued by the RV parks.
I was doing apartments for a few years. Again, I was building this brand. I was building my email list along the way, just kind of like, hey, if somebody wanted to sign up and get my articles, I would get my email, I would get their email, and then I could send out articles to them. So I was getting ready to invest in an apartment syndication in Dallas, and the group was like, hey, we know you got this little following of doctors. If we go through the legal terms and make you a co-general partner, do you want to see if they want to invest alongside of you? I didn't know what they were talking about. I was like, sure, because I'm investing in it. At the time, I had 212 people on my list, okay? I took the emails that they were sending out to their group, and I kind of changed it up, and I sent one out to them. 48 hours later, I sent another one out. Well, the group contacts me and said, hey, look, we've raised enough capital now between you and our group. So you don't have to send out any more emails. I said, okay, great. And they're like, well, how long have you been doing this? I was like, doing what? Raising capital. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, well, you just raised capital for us, and you just raised 2.4 million in 48 hours. I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
And this was only like 200 people. So that was how I got into the world of capital raising. So then I began working with sponsors, and we've done multifamily, which is getting murdered right now because the insurance rates, nothing's paying out. Because think about it, if your house note's $3,000 right now, and all of a sudden it goes up to $20,000, that's what's happening to these apartments. And that's why they're going under right now, because the insurance is sky high, no claims filed, and people are suffering and hurting. And I feel bad for them because they've done nothing wrong. So I've been exposed to that, self-storage, Airbnbs. And then I was in a capital raising mastermind thinking that I was going to learn how to raise capital better and this and that, and come to find out, like, nobody in there had really done it before. So I'm having to teach people. I paid like $12,000 to be in this group, and I'm teaching people how to do it. I'm like, but I had to stay in there for a year because I paid. But even though I didn't learn anything, I met a guy in there who lived 5 miles from me that was running mobile home parks. And he came over to my house, and I taught him about syndications, and he was just like, this is amazing. You can get people and use their money and blah, blah, blah. So as of today, we own 8 mobile home parks in Louisiana together.
Nice.
And that just shows you the importance of your network. Because if you're like me and all you do is go to dental meetings, or you're like you and all you goes to medical meetings, think about the people that are there. They're all doctors, they're all dentists, and they're only there for what? To get their CME.
Yep.
For the most part. Of course, it's good to learn and stuff today, but they do it and they go eat or whatever, and they go home. And if you're around that, like I was for the first 10 to 12 years, well, how can you grow? How can you do other stuff? So once I got out of that and started going into these other groups, it's amazing the people you network with. And then I was in a Facebook group, So that's how I got started in mobile home parks. And I was in a private Facebook group for dentists. And I had a dentist reach out to me. He's like, hey, I follow your stuff or whatever. Me and a real estate attorney, we own 2 RV parks together. Do you think any of your list would be interested in investing? I was like, I don't know. So I put it out there and I had a few people. And then I started raising money for them. And then now we've actually grown that. We own 24 RV parks now. And we've built out a company called the Blue Metro Group. So again, it's because I got out of that network and got into another one. So I can't stress how important that is enough to people listening to this.
Yeah, that's great. Really, to push that point a little bit further. I mean, networking, that's the easiest thing you can do, right? Is go to your local meetups. There's got to be something out there, once a week, once a month, whatever it is. And that's the easiest way to start meeting people. And to your point earlier, I think it's more fun to do that. I still go to obviously the orthopedic meetings, and they're great, and it's networking with your buddies. But now they're asking me about real estate, and we're talking more about that than we are medicine, which is kind of funny. So I enjoy that aspect of it. But yeah, to your point, going to the meetups is the biggest thing.
And for you, we're both specialists. It's a great way to network with your referring doctors and my referring dentists that are right out of training. Well, you can mentor them, teach them about, because they're going to have a lot of debt. They don't know about money. They're going to get hounded by financial advisors that want to get them to get in a 401k. And so they got to work for 40 years. You're like, you don't have to do that.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, moving on with Louisiana, my business partner, Jason, and I have a couple hotels that we own down there, and one in Baton Rouge, one in Lafayette. And it seems like, so now I know you, but you have Chris Rude down in Louisiana. Justin Wallen is from Louisiana. There's some really good real estate investors that have a really good presence online, yourself included. So is that a good place to invest, or is that just happen to be where you guys are from?
I guess it kind of depends on what you want to invest in. We like I said, we own 8 mobile home parks here, and we own 2 RV parks. It kind of depends on what your asset class is. Apartments will probably be tough, but not just Louisiana, the whole country is going to affordable housing.
Yes.
So anything like that, and that's why I love RV parks and mobile home parks. It's very affordable.
Yep, and that's why we like the extended stays, because people are having trouble paying their rent, having trouble buying a house. Extended stay at least gives you, gets you back on your feet for.
You're fitting a need with what you're doing, and we're fitting a need too. So that's, if that need is wherever you live, whether it's Louisiana or Oregon or whatever, then go for it.
Absolutely. So taxes. Let's talk a little bit about taxes. I would say, a lot of people think taxes are boring, but I've been loving talking about taxes and reading about taxes. And if you're involved in real estate, then you should definitely know about taxes, right? That's a big part of it.
If you're a doctor, this is how stupid I used to be. I would hear somebody and they would brag about what they paid in taxes. And they were bragging on that. Like, oh yeah, I paid $500,000 a year in taxes. And so back then I was like, golly, that dude's making some money. But if I hear somebody say that now, you know what I say? You're freaking stupid. Your accountant is doing you a disservice by not telling you that you don't have to pay any taxes. And guess what? When you don't pay 300 or 500 taxes, guess how much you can work? Way less. And I think you would do yourself a disservice if you don't learn how to do it, because your accountant's not going to do it. They just want to file your taxes and they don't want to educate you, and that's fine. But nobody looks out for you and your money more than you are going to. If you want to keep working until you're 70 and pay a bunch of taxes and rely on a 401k and rely on the stock market, keep going the route you're going. And for some people, that's fine. If I wouldn't have gotten all this stuff done and all that, I would have still been doing that too. And you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
Yep. So on that note, I listened to the Hall CPA guys, the Tax Smart Real Estate Investing podcast. And I actually listened to an episode that had you, Dr. Jeff Anzalone, on it. And it was phenomenal. So you did a heck of a job. Just real quick on that, give me a couple points on what you're doing to help your taxes. Is your wife real estate professional? Are you real estate professional status? Give us a little snippet of what you're going through with that.
Yeah, if you're a doctor or dentist, you're probably paying 30 to maybe 50% in taxes when you combine federal and state. And most of us just think it is what it is, but it doesn't have to be like that. Let's just talk about what you can, not talk about doing anything with your taxes. You can go out and get other streams of income, real estate, and you can have tax-free income if you do it right. So you can open up, you can have multiple streams of income coming in. Then you can do some stuff to where if you work more in the real estate, or your wife works more managing your real estate, go through all the proper channels, then you can use the write-offs that you can get called depreciation to offset your doctor income. Again, you have to learn this yourself. I learned all this for free online. So don't tell me you can't do it. You have to want to do it. If not, keep paying the $100,000 to $300,000 a year in taxes. That's fine. And you're really missing the boat. And once I started learning how to do it, and again, getting people at Hall CPA, in the Bible, it talks about surrounding yourself with trusted advisors. That's the only way you can do it, to do it properly, to do it right, and to do it fast. If not, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get audited, or you can get anybody get audited, but you can get audited and not be doing what you're supposed to be doing. These people are going to help you by the book, document everything that you need to be, so you'll be legit. So that's what I would recommend doing if that's what you're thinking about it.
Would you recommend paying for a good real estate CPA? If
you don't have any real estate at all, I don't think you should until you get to that point. If you just want to do syndications and do passive, which is what 99% of people do that we work with, then as long as your accountant knows how to read a K-1, which is what your sponsor is going to give you, then I don't think it's that big of a deal. But if you want to really start, getting into it, getting your own property, becoming a real estate professional, or using doing all these other kinds of things, and I think it would be a good idea to do that. And I did that a couple of years ago. Now they do my dental practice and then all the different real estate holdings that we have too.
So, you told me that you're doing obviously a ton of real estate. So you are real estate professional status, correct?
Correct.
Just to point this out to the listeners, you can't be full-time employee, full-time periodontist, full-time surgeon or doctor and get real estate professional status. That's not possible. So what you did is you scaled back, correct?
Yeah, you could either do that, but most of the doctors and dentists that we coach on how to do this, their spouse is the one that qualifies. They're the ones that are either non-working or part-time working. So they're the ones that are actively. So their main job is managing the real estate, and they have to do minimum 750 hours a year, which is about 15 hours a week, quote, materially participating, meaning they're going out, they're mowing the grass, or they're dealing with tenants, or they're renting out, they're doing what they need to do to keep their rental real estate business going.
All right. We're going to shift gears just a little bit. Let's talk about brand. That's become a big thing, a big topic, I think, with social media, which is a great way to, get information out there, right? So I follow you on social media. I've subscribed to your channel on YouTube, and it's fantastic. You can learn a ton doing that.
Thank you.
I think you do a great job of getting your brand out there, the debt-free doctor. So talk about branding, how important it is to your message. What are your thoughts on that, and how you've built your brand, or how have you built your brand, and how long has it really taken to get to this point?
Yeah, it all started with me paying, I think, $300 how to start a blog. And once I paid somebody that knew what they were doing. They taught me how to do it, because for the first 2 months, I was just writing these articles and nobody was reading them. I'm like, what's the point? So I took this course online, and they taught me how to write articles to where the likelihood of them ranking on the top 10 of Google was very high. And once I started doing that, then I started seeing traction and started seeing more people sign up. So I didn't really know anything about building a brand. I was just writing articles. But the more that I got into it, and the more I realized how powerful it is, think about anything that you buy, anything that you wear. You may, a lot of people wear these OnCloud shoes. Well, that's a brand. Anytime anything comes out from OnCloud, they go buy it. or Nike or, or whatever, or Apple. If you have a brand and you create a following, you can do a lot with it. So I think I'm always stressing to my kids and to their friends, I'm like, you have no idea what you have right here in your hand. Your phone. We didn't have that growing up, and it's so easy to post content and get a following and build a brand, but they won't do it. Most of them won't do it. But yeah, that's a great way for doctors if they want to get a little side hustle or do something. Start a little side business. Get your brand going. To start whatever you like to do, or whatever your superpower is, or whatever you are excited about. Because I love talking about this stuff. But if you hate doing it, then you're not going to do it. But something that you like to do, you may like to garden, and you can grow all these plants or whatever. Well, you can start a side business. If you play pickleball, you're really good at it. You can start a website. You can start a YouTube channel. Well, whatever. But just find something you like and start creating content.
And a goal of mine is to speak at conferences, speak to, groups of people. Have you been able to do that?
Yeah. And I think, and I learned this from, I think it was Napoleon Hill's book. Did he write How to Win Friends and Influence People?
Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. Okay. And one of the things that he taught was, always go into a relationship providing value. So if you could do so I was like, well, how can I do that? And I was like, well, I have this YouTube channel. So whenever I want to potentially maybe network with somebody or whatever, I'll invite them and interview them on my YouTube channel and promote whatever they have to promote. And that's a great way, number one, to network. Number two, potentially get on their podcast. And number three, if they have a conference or something, or maybe they can connect you with somebody. I'm not doing it to do that solely, but that's a great way to get, speaking at conferences. It's all about who you know.
Yep, absolutely. One more big point, and then we'll get to the final 4 questions. But I'm going to start by just saying, for young physicians out there, young doctors and dentists that are coming out of their training right now, I think it's a tough time because their, student loans are high. The rates on their student loans are high. It's difficult to buy a house right now, right, when they're coming out because of high interest rates. And so it just seems like, a lot of these dentists and doctors are a little frustrated, like they're living more of this like middle class life that they weren't expecting. They were hoping to maybe do more with what they're doing, right? Or come out and get the car that you want, the house that you want, but it's just not happening. So what advice do you have for doctors and dentists that are in training right now that are going to be coming out and become, practicing doctors here soon?
I think what happens is, every year in college and you have goals, get to the next year, get into medical school. And you're in medical school, then you have goals. Okay. You want this residency, and you go, and then you get the residency. And then here's where it falls apart. We get out of our residency and that's it. There's no more goals. So unless you have goals, I can't answer that question because most people don't. And they're just thinking, I'm going to go buy all this stuff and I'm just going to have to work the rest of my life. And that's all they think is out there. And unless we educate them to there's options out there where you don't have to do that, where you can have financial freedom, where you can do whatever you want and still practice, still enjoy yourself. So it just kind of depends on what they want. Looking back on it, I would have continued to live like a resident till all that debt was paid off. I would have had that house, bought that first house, and I would have focused, knowing what I know now, to become financially independent during that first 10 years, by the time I was 40, knowing what I know now. But again, if you don't know all that, then you're just going to, so if you're just starting off, just focus on when you get out, paying off all that debt and keep living in an apartment, keep renting a house. And then from there, sit down with your spouse if you're married, or if you're not, have some goals on, okay, what are we going to do? And do 5-year increments. Because in my experience, and I just turned 50, your life changes pretty much completely every 5 years. Because think about it, if you talking to your 10-year-old is a whole different conversation than you talking to your 15-year-old. So think about it in 5-year increments.
Yep, that's good. Yeah, and you can do a lot in 5 years, right? I mentioned this on my last podcast. That's what I did. I gave myself 5 years. I'm going to start real estate, give myself 5 years, see what I can do in that time. And it's been less than that, and it's been leaps and bounds of changes that have occurred in that time. And so I think that's a great bit of advice that you just gave there.
You could commit to buying one rental property or buying, doing one syndication, one a year in 5 years, and you look up and you've got this 5 different streams of income coming in. Well, that's a huge accomplishment right there.
Yep. Any other advice you'd give to not even just young doctors and dentists, but say somebody that's in middle of their career in the prime, and that's all they've been doing is focusing on that, and they're like, they call you and say, "Hey, I have $500,000 of taxes that I'm paying each year. I make good money, but I'm giving a lot of that to Uncle Sam. What advice do you have for me? I'm your age, 50 years young, and what would you say to them?"
Well, that's what kind of made me start the sort of the financial freedom coaching, helping them with that. Some of them, like we have an oral surgeon that I think his tax bill was $600,000. Those guys make some money, and we're working with him and his wife now. She quit her job. They already had a little bit of rental property, but we're getting them to work with our CPA and walking them through, and now to become a real estate professional, to wipe out that tax bill. I mean, and now he's got 2 little kids. He's going to be able to cut back maybe 3 days a week practicing. And he's only been out for like 4 or 5 years. So it completely changed his trajectory of his practice. That's life-changing.
Yep. That's amazing. Good. Any other topics that we did not touch on that you would like to bring up? Anything that you're doing? You can plug I want to hear about your coaching. If you have insight on how people can find that.
Yeah, just go to debtfreedoctor.com. That has all my links to the YouTube. I'm a little more active as far as if you want to contact me through Instagram. So the Instagram link is on my website. I think it's like at Dr. Jeff Anzalone, but you can just message me through that. And as far as what to do, just again, until you know what you want, and that's the first question I ask coaching clients. What do you want? What are you trying to accomplish? Most people can't answer that. And you got to get really clear on that. If you have to close your eyes, if you have to meditate on it, whatever, what do you want your life to look like 10 years from now? Just start there and sit down with and maybe that could be an exercise you do with your spouse together. And I say in 10 years, I'm talking about tell me everything. Where do you want to live? How do you want to travel? Do you want to travel? What do you want to be doing with your kids? What kind of hobbies you want? How much you want to be working? How much you want to be making? Getting very clear on that. And I didn't really do that until the last few years. And it really makes a big difference, because once you start doing that, those different types of things start to appear. So for instance, let's say you want to buy a white Toyota 4Runner this year. Okay. You start doing your research. When you start driving around town, guess what you start seeing? White Toyota 4Runners. Why is that? It was just the way the brain works, and I forgot what that's called because I'm not that smart. But it's something to do with the brain's constantly filtering out all the stuff and keeping you focused on what you need to know. But if you're like Toyota 4Runner white, you're like, oh, there's one, and so that's a perfect example. If you get in your car, hey kids, let's get in the car. Get your spouse in the car, and all right, y'all ready to go? We're going on a trip. Okay, where are we going, Dad? I don't know. Well, then how do you know where to go? How do you know what roads to take? What do you need to know to, type in? And I know it sounds silly, but it's true. So you figure that out. And that's the first thing we do is get clear on that. And then, start with the end in mind. Then we work backwards to set up a plan for you. And then that's it. Work the plan.
That's great. It always appears more complex than it actually is, right? Wouldn't you agree?
It does, and the financial advisors do a great job of confusing the hell out of us, because they put up all these different statistics, and you have an 82% chance of never running out of money if you do this, but if you just work 5 more years and keep paying me those fees, 5 more years, you want to be a 92, and it's just like all this stuff. It's like, it doesn't have to be that complicated. I got a trailer park that pays my mortgage. That's not complicated. It's not. So don't make it complicated. Stay away from them. Don't make it complicated. Take your money and your taxes and your wealth, take it in your own hands. If not, you'll be working for two people, the government and advisors.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yep. That's great. All right. We're closing up here. A lot of good stuff there. We appreciate that. So in closing, I like to ask my guests 4 final questions. What book are you reading right now?
Well, I'm reading a series of books, and I think it may be more like for young adults. I don't know, but I like them. They're called the Orphan X books. Greg Hurwitz. I think there's like 9 or 10 of them. It's kind of like, Jason Bourne, that movie. It's kind of like that. But it's really cool. So that's the series I'm reading right now, Amazon.
Very good. What's your favorite book? You mentioned a couple of good ones. Think and Grow Rich, Win Friends and Influence People. What's your favorite book that you've read? One of the classics.
I always have these two on my shelf because I get asked this a lot. The Purple Bible, that's what changed my trajectory. Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then the one that has really got me to just completely just accomplish a lot of stuff is Who Not How.
Oh yeah, Dan Sullivan.
That's how I got started with my YouTube channel, because it was always like, how do I edit the things? How do I make thumbnails? How do I publish it? I just found a who to do it, and it was like, okay, well then I can just shoot content and send it off.
That's amazing. Good for you. What advice would you give to your 25-year-old self?
Let's see, 25. I was just getting out of dental school. What I told you, get out of debt really quick, and focus on becoming financially free in that first 10 years, getting property, networking with people. And at the same time, I would do exactly what I've done in the last 10 years, except started that at 25. Build the brand, get the following going, and off you go.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's similar to real estate, where they say like the best real estate you could buy is 20 years ago. The second best is today.
Yeah. That's plant a tree. Best time to do it 20 years ago or today. So
what is your definition of wealth?
Definition of wealth is being able to have enough money so you have free time to do what you want with who you want, when you want, and you have freedom. It's not so much buying stuff. I'm not really into buying a bunch of fancy stuff, even though I just did get a Cybertruck. I've been waiting on that a long time. But other than that, it's just having the time freedom, because they don't make much more time. They don't make time, but you always make more money.
Yeah, I was on the list for the Cybertruck, and I've had my opportunities. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I ordered mine August of 2020, and it took 4 years to come in. And I was kind of like going, second guessing it. My wife was like, just do it. You've been waiting for 4 years. So I know a dentist in Seattle that had gotten one. And I called him up. And I said, look, I don't know. I may just, he's like, look, once you drive it, you're sold. Now, I didn't drive one. I said, okay. So I went and picked it up, and I love it.
Nice. That's awesome. Good. Yeah, we're starting to see them around town now. What does retirement look like for you?
Retirement looks like for me, I'm just going to do, I don't remember the guy's name, but he partnered with Oprah, and he wrote this book, and it was like, it was all about happiness and finding happiness in retirement. And that's kind of what he teaches. And they did all these studies, and the studies show the happiest people that are in retirement, that are older, had one thing in common. And they gave back. They taught the younger generation. So I'm really having fun teaching younger doctors and dentists. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to keep doing it unless something else comes up. So that's going to be my retirement, is just doing what I'm doing now, but more of it.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, Jeff, thank you for joining us today. You're doing big things. We love following you and seeing all your accomplishments. You're a phenomenal ambassador of freedom and success for doctors and dentists. Thank you for leading the charge in this space. I should say for fellow dentists and doctors, right? Mostly dentists are probably following you, but plenty of doctors are, and plenty of doctors will after this for sure. So thanks for leading the charge in this space. And lastly, where can people find you?
Easiest place is my website, debtfreedoctor.com. That's the easiest place. I'm a little more active in YouTube now. I really enjoy making content, and now that I'm not working as much, I'm going out more into my projects and going to the mobile home parks, going to the RV parks, and showing people what we're doing. So that's pretty cool. So you can check out those videos on my YouTube channel. And all the links are on my website.
Fantastic. Well, we appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
This is my time. I'm on the rise. Can't hold me down.
Thank you for listening. If you found value in today's podcast, please leave a review so our community can continue to grow. If you would like to stay connected or receive a copy of your free investing ebook, please go to www.sharpinvestmentsllc.com, and that's sharp with a P as in professional. This is not financial or tax advice. Please consult with your financial advisor or CPA.